that there's Amazon Echoes and Google Homes, or all these, and every speaker maker has added some way of doing things. Katie's going to talk about what's going on in the car. It's not a coincidence that we kicked off with John Chambers talking about how important voice is going to be, although I think it's a modality among many that as you sort of plan out your ubiquitous conversational commerce strategy, you're going to look across the boards. But we wanted to break out a panel with people that know the voice-first world better than anybody. And when we did our planning call, I noted there isn't an Amazon person here or a Google person here. And I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves and sort of explain, well, I guess, who you are, where you're working, and how you got into voice.
Should I start?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, everybody. My name is Oren Jacob. I'm the founder and CEO of PullString, a company 2 blocks that way, so I had a long trip to get here. We offer a professional platform for enterprises to build world-class great voice skills and actions for Google Assistant, for Amazon Alexa, on IoT devices. And if you want to build deep, contextual, multi-turn voice conversation, people use that to build in our system all the time.
Cool. Hi, I'm Pino di Fabbrizio. I'm a CTO, a co-founder of VUI, VUI Inc. VUI, of course, stands for Voice User Interface. And we do have the vui.com domain. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. We are just a young startup in Boston. We started on January 2018. Although we've been on speech for a long time, myself, I was before in Amazon and then in AT&T Labs Research. So it goes a long way, in the speech kind of processing history. And so as a VUI, what we do, we provide conversational AI for enterprises and on multi-channels. I mean, multiple endpoints, like for example, Amazon Alexa, of course, Google Home, but also mobile and desktops. So.
I'm Katie McMahon from SoundHound Inc. We have the Houndify voice AI platform. And what makes that platform extraordinarily special is that we have combined a suite of technologies and offer, in many ways, a solution for any company, any vertical, to be able to deploy a voice interface to their service, to their car, to their product, et cetera. And we have what we call speech to meaning, which is a real breakthrough in speed, accuracy, and end user delight, because we combined ASR and NLU. And then we've built it and architected. I love the themes earlier about architecture, right? And we've got deep meaning understanding, which has allowed us to propagate data sets more rapidly than the giants. And it's really open and free for anyone to register and harness this stuff. So we're really at this inflection point. Just speaking with the audience here, it feels like people are here to learn and actually take home actionable learnings from this session. So thank you for inviting us to present and be here.
Yeah, the message is that stuff works, right?
Right. Yeah, I love that.
And
the
we've
vanity
been on this for
value
decades.
Right.
But let's hum in. I mentioned that all these devices are ubiquitous now, and it's almost like a voice user interface is sort of the training wheels where we humans have become confident that we can use our own words, as imprecise as they may be, and to get to command devices, to get stuff done, and that sort of thing. Katie, is that what you're finding?
Well, there's this recent data point coming out that owners who have a screenless device, let's just call it the Echo or the Google Home, is coming to the home. That is now making them more rapidly turn to voice assistants on their devices. So there's an acceleration to the adoption on mobile. In many ways, and I'd love Pino's insight on this, we think that devices that aren't necessarily screen first are where voice interfaces can just have high impact. Think of the automotive experience. You got to be hands-free, and you're not supposed to be looking down. So that's where Houndify is getting really momentum. The PSA group, right? Peugeot, Vauxhall, Citroën announced they've chosen us, and Hyundai showcased us at CES. So for the automotive industry, voice is tip of spear. It must be done. And these are industries that are incredible designers. And I'll tell you, they don't want to go and have to use an API to a big company in Seattle or Cupertino or Mountain View. So this is where we're emerging in the sweet spot of having taken 13 years to design some really hard technology. And that's where I was trying to understand where John Chambers and pushing the answer that the question you had to him towards big enterprises are entertaining with startups because there's an engagement factor with millennials. I see it very differently. I see enterprise companies now realizing voice interface, mission critical. And who I select to be that platform to deliver it is going to be a pivotal partner. And the truth is, you won't find this technology spring up after 3 months from some startup. It takes 10 years to find the scientist, to research, develop, make steps, fall back, productize, and then be able to launch. And that's really what we're able to do. You know our other products too, but I hope I answered the question. We open some other things.
We're around there. Pino?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with Katie. I would say Amazon and Google, they open up an avenue, which is huge. I mean, for the first time, we see those voice recognition working. Right? Yeah. And that was surprising. In 2014, it was just the beginning, right? But now, so like you said, enterprises are looking at something which is their brand, right? I mean, the voice is important, but it's super important for them in order to reach their customers. But they also want to keep their brand, and in a way that it's unique, right? I mean, they want their own voice, they want their interaction.
Alexa.
They don't want to call it Alexa, exactly. So they want to be sure that they can actually leverage their data and access the data freely, and it's not actually in some place, like you said, in Seattle or somewhere else. So it's a very important now that enterprises will reach the kind of point where they can use this technology in an easy way. So, but they need to ramp up, the expertise, because I mean it's very complex technology. So, and company providing the expertise to enterprise, that will be fundamental, because they will be able to jumpstart this process, in a very profitable way in terms of providing to the customer the image of the brand, in my opinion.
Own your own brand.
Yeah.
I guess I would comment to the original question about using our language to communicate with computers.
Yep.
As a broad topic, I think a lot of us learn to type and therefore speak Google as a way we crash text into a search bar today, which is not how we speak in natural language to each other, but it is how we get good results out of Google. And so the language forms both by its use and its reflection back at us. In this case, I think for the first time, we're trying to actually speak verbally at giant scale to computing services back and forth, and I think that is a fundamental change in human-computer interaction at a very meaningful societal level, to have computers understand us in the way we speak to each other as other people, and have them respond back in that way as well too.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
And it was ironic, in the last session, somebody said, oh, Capital One was so far ahead because they hired somebody from Pixar to come and build their user interface. Well, that's
I just spent 20 years at Pixar prior to starting PullString, so I know a little bit about that, perhaps, yes? We can talk about Nemo all you like if you go to that. Yeah.
Find him.
That's right. They've got to find Dory next, yeah.
It's true. But, I always had this trouble with foreign languages, too. I always thought I could learn a foreign language, and then I could say something, but God forbid somebody say something back to me, and I'd have to start conversing. I feel like we're kind of that way with conversational interfaces. We don't have that expectation that it's still a parlor trick if I can change a subject, and so.
Yeah, well, that's the holy grail, and we've called that Tarzan speak. Right.
Tarzan?
Right. To Oren's point, like Google for the decade taught us how to go hotel, Seattle, less than $400 more, right?
Yeah,
and that's not how you'd go down and talk to a concierge agent, et cetera. So, ultimately you need to be able to just speak. Dan, can I just pull out the demo? Like, I just feel like people here just need to see to believe and get it. At least at the end, if we have time, it just contextualizes it. Like, can I say these things and just then say, what's the weather like? You're talking about Seattle. Don't show me anything that doesn't have air conditioning. A double negative, that technology is hard to do. If you ask Siri, show me restaurants except Chinese, because you ate Chinese all week long, what will it show you?
Probably Chinese.
Entity detection, because it's off the mentality of entity detection, and that's not going to work for joyful, conversational state. So you've got to break through that.
I think a way to just characterize that broadly speaking is imagine someone sitting at your dinner table at your house you invited over, and you want to invite them back. It depends on how well they talk to you at dinner. If they're a jackass, you're not going to bring them back into your house. If they're blunt and only edit out every third word and cut all the prepositions out and don't say hello to you, you're not bringing them back to dinner again. As a conversational commerce conference, that's certainly true of a salesperson knocking on your front door or calling you at your house. If they don't speak English to you, ask how your kids are doing, what can I sell you or not, and greet you, instead go knock, knock, want to buy a fuller brush? Bam, no, you're done, right? So actually engaging in conversation is a human-to-human interaction and should be designed as such. It's therefore hard to do because human language is as broad as the human condition itself. That's how we invented language in the first place. So it has all the imprecision and all the ambiguity of all of us talking back and forth.
That's a natural
but
language.
it also is that rich. That's what makes us challenging.
So what's the secret, Pino?
Okay, so I just want to add that the complexity of natural language, of course, it's still a challenge today. Even if with machine learning is done a lot of progress, but I think in the case of conversational AI, you need to have a very good model to represent the context. I mean, when you carry over a conversation, I mean, the context of the conversation is very hard to represent in terms of machine learning. Sorry, this is not technical, I understand, but in terms of machine learning models. In doing that, I mean, there's going to be breakthrough in the next few years that will be able to represent that correctly. At this moment in time, I think we're still struggling in order to to carry over that context to the conversation and make it natural.
Can I provide context to that? Because last week I was in a meeting and we were discussing and just showcasing some things. And we've been demoing the music vertical, if you will, like how old is Paul McCartney? How about Fetty Wap? Show me albums by Taylor Swift. How about the Eagles? I suddenly thought, oh shit, it's going to say like the Eagles won the match. My brain went to the Eagles, Philadelphia, yay. Maybe a naturalist would have thought like, what about the Eagles and different types of birds? And then it came back and it understood, well, the Eagles are touring, da-da-da-da-da. Like it understood that context. So to this point, that following the conversational context, I just want to state like the technology is live and it's out there and it's extraordinary to experience. So it's not a science project anymore. It's there.
So we're bringing up a bunch of stuff, that's a joy to my heart to sort of hear that it's even coming up, because as people were evaluating, do I replace my touch tone with a X, Y, or Z? We're now far beyond that. But what are and I'll direct this to Oren is unless Oren answer one. No, let's try. Either
we're all happy to help.
Yeah. The implication for brands, because we're tomorrow. Some of today we've already talked about that. This is about customer support or brand engagement. It's all fanning out that we're trying to come up with a conversational way for people to interact with the brands of their choice, to empower people to use their own words to accomplish the things they want. But in some ways, we're not hearing from brands that's the expectation. They just sort of be glad, oh, can I have it speak in my spokesperson's voice or something like that?
I think that when there is a reason, there's often a business case being made for doing a thing in voice for Alexa or Assistant. Perhaps it's a customer service thing, perhaps it's a brand awareness thing, perhaps it's answering questions about wine. I heard the wine example earlier today. Almost always in those cases, the direct business case, you'll have a good college try getting right. That's how you defended the budget to begin with. For this reason, we'll put this project, we'll staff it, we'll go that direction. What is often not considered, and people then fall down on the brand side, is to contemplate what happens when people answer questions not the way you expected them to do it, and take you off axis from the particular golden path you've designed or the particular tree you've designed as well too. It's in that moment that more of your brand's tone, mood, and style is communicated than any other moment in your experience, because there is no informational value. You've asked a question about pizza ordering to an airline ticketing thing. That is weird, and people do it sometimes, not very common, they do. But when you have that circumstance, you have to understand before that case, before that happens, in the design process, what is the voice, the tone, mood, and style of your company and your brand that you are trying to get across to this voice experience. You are creating an actor, if you will, a door-to-door salesperson, a person on the phone contacting someone, the bank teller who you meet in person, that digitally. And what is their motivation? What kind of person are they? Are they enthusiastic? Are they recalcitrant? Are they sarcastic? Are they a wisecracker? Are they super fun and engaging? And those things all are fine, but understanding what that is as a design advocacy allows one to build voice experiences and design conversation that is resonant with what that brand is trying to do.
Yeah.
That's important to reach for, I would say.
So I just want to add a quick thing. I mean, it's very important that each brand has its own language, like you said. I mean, and that's a super, a lexicon, which is actually proper of a specific, type of a business, right? And then in order, so what you want, in most cases, you want to learn that language automatically. It's very important, for example, that people build tools and technology to absorb all that language automatically and provide, for example, a way to represent products and the way people talk about those products embedded in the way you build this conversational system. That's a fundamental point where when you transition from, a kind of no brand, kind of Amazon, if you want, or to a brand, you have to make that step, which is actually super important. And a company cannot just learn by yourself, in 5 days. What is the lexicon and the language and the jargon used in a company. It has to be done in a principled way and automatic.
Yeah. And that's come up on the back end. I hate using the term, but what you're describing is, I don't know where the information, especially from the opacitude of enterprise information systems, knowledge bases, blah, 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 blah,
right.
where the information to
right.
answer my question resides. I just know that, I know two things. I don't want the thing answering too quickly, because then it's crazy. But just after a beep, I'd like to get, or not a beep, but a period of time, I'd like to get the right answer, which
right.
means it had to know where that was. So how much of the tooling that you're each talking about has to ooze over into the information curation and
right.
or whatever?
So we built this technology called a catalog to dialogue, which is basically harvesting all the information around for e-commerce, especially.
For e-commerce, yeah.
E-commerce is one of the big kind of sector we are trying to tackle, and in that way we use, for example, information that are very easily available, like the catalog information, the click stream from browsing and searching, which is kind of cheap data you can get, basically, so those are web logs, and also the reviews. I mean, and those are very rich, full information that they talks about they talk about the brand. I mean, they all the reviews, people talking about attributes. The clickstream is extremely rich because people searching, they express their intention in the search, and then you can leverage the information to, for example, abstract to people how people would refer to a product. I mean, if I talk about air conditioning, I won't say 5,000 BTU. 115 volts.
But you know how big your room is.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to cool my bedroom.
But this is it.
So that's exactly what you will learn. That people say AC unit for window, and there will be all information which is sitting there, and you have to extract automatically.
I think where Pino sits, VUI is so important, and out there, it will be the golden age of VUI. This is so early days. Right, so he's already out ahead of it, because your question was, you feel like the brands don't really get it, and it's good enough to call your thing via the thing of a different wake word.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago,
and wake words, not saying wake words aren't going to be really important, but that's not.
No, but this is where we take the stance of like, you brand it. We'll build your own wake word, right? The cute and adorable curry robot. You didn't call it something else. You said, hey, curry, right? So that's part of the whole package. But it's so important to look at this migration moment. 2 years ago, Madison Avenue, we ran up and down and said, ooh, look at our Houndify platform. And it just was, they had no idea, right? It was only companies that were technology-based that were seeing this coming. Fast forward to where we are today, every brand across any industry is now contemplating, is the voice interface consequential to my business? And if so, maybe I'll dabble with a few cute things and slap it on for CES. But now, what's really hitting home, how do I own and control my own data? How do I learn from it? How do I customize? How do I brand it? And then leapfrog the experience. And then you're a company of consequence for another 100 years.
We have like 5 minutes in this one, and I'm interested if there's questions.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I didn't interrupt.
Well said. That's all said.
Thank you.
What'd you say?
Well said.
Oh, well said, yes.
That's so nice.
We have a good Anya here, or some other synonym. Questions? No, wow. Then I get to keep asking.
No questions, really? Oh, come on. There we are. There we are.
Wait, she said a but.
Everything we have to.
Why stop?
It's for Katie, because I like SoundHound. Sorry, guys. You said that you're in vehicles, connected vehicles right now. So is it? I haven't seen it in a connected vehicle, but is it more speech where you're asking, to play different songs, or what is the name of that song, or how does
Great
that
question, because it is, yes, that, but more importantly, think about you're driving through a tunnel.
Right.
And you've built up this habit that when you got into the car, you could say, what's the weather like in Santa Clara? Oh, how about San Francisco at 4 p.m.? That's nice and fluid. But then you're going through the car, and you have to pull over, open the back door. That's native on device, not cloud connection. So, so a design thinker, you have to be thinking, does the solution depend on the cloud? Could I also have some that works on the edge or on device? So all of these things are you have to think through if you're really going to be a competitive voice platform, an independent platform. And for the automotive space, again, it comes back to what has been a tethered world. I think you all probably have experience. I'll just tether to AirPlay, or I'll use my Google device and that's going to still be a heavy habit for the next bit until you see the connected car changes everything. Right. And those automakers, I can tell you, do not want to hand over their brand, their experience. Right?
Believe me, I know.
Yes,
I know.
So there you go. So I hope I answered your question.
And there's a lot more. There's a long history of automation inside the cars, and there's a recognition that the information center and everything else is multi-purpose.
Since this is a panel, I think it's going to troll for a little bit of controversy here for a second.
Thank you.
I think we bring up the issue here, though, about I certainly don't contest the point that if you're an auto manufacturer, you want that yourself, but will a consumer's attachment to any of Siri, Alexa, Cortana, or Assistant become a purchase discriminator in the showroom? It did for music.
Apple Play.
It did for music. Yeah. And iTunes showed up, yes, first with a little jack connector into your phone, and then with Apple Play as well, too. If that becomes a purchase discriminator before Detroit and Japan and Germany get there, we're in a different world. And I don't know enough about the industry to comment on that, but that is relevant because Alexa, Siri, and Assistant are very present in houses now and in people's lives and on their phones as well, too. Yep. And that race to become what the Honda or General Motors or Toyota Assistant is versus Alexa and Siri and Google Assistant is fully in. So good for being in the race, but yeah.
This is cool. He just set up the paradigm of, are you integrating a voice assistant or are you thinking voice interface as a paradigm? Two separate things. There can be a Venn diagram. And just last week when BMW announced, they announced multi-assistants. Yeah. You're going to have Cortana, blah, 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 for whatever my brain toggles to there. I'm going to ask Alexa, blah, 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 and then I'm going to speak to the thing itself through its right? So you're seeing the world not know what to do right now. There will be an existence of, and Jeff Bezos has said that. That's why they're buddied up with Cortana, right? So it's an early stage. And Pino, do you add something to that?
I think I agree. I mean, now people develop some kind of affection to those devices, so they want to have the possibility to talk, in the car with whatever is their preferred, way to
where
talk.
They have confidence on
exactly. So there is a relationship there, right? I mean, which is being built over time. And you want to keep the relationship in the car eventually.
Well, okay.
But put it in perspective numerically, Siri is the most talked to character in the history of there being people on Earth ever. It's been on 1 billion devices for 5-6 years now, and people have all talked to Siri in their phones. There is no other personality in the history of humanity that has had more unique conversations with other people ever, flat out. At a Cupertino, not at a Disney, which is surprising.
This is such a huge point. Can I ask them to stitch together their expertise? Because as people develop relationships, come back to the 6-year-old who's suddenly developing a relationship or an ability to voice interface with a thing behind their back, which is phenomenal. This is the voice first generation. That generation, as they grow up, is going to be very different from the millennial who bought into it to us, who are really, we don't matter. So between these two who have extraordinary experience in that demographic, any thoughts? Any thoughts on where this could all go? Because
Sorry, you go first. Go ahead.
I mean, we're talking about the next generation, like the voice native, right? I mean, I don't know what to call them, but yeah, it's going to
Voice
be,
native.
expected, to have a voice interface. I mean, it's like a given, right? I mean, it's a tremendous opportunity. I mean, there to, build our technology and address this need, which is right now it's just starting, but I will see, in 5 years or 10 years, it's going to be amazing.
So will they grow up all talking to one assistant?
I happen to have a
please.
14, 12, and 10-year-old at home right now, and I obviously have many devices in my house that are voice first, as you would expect. We also built many experiences in the kids space for voice as well, early on in the company's history.
Yeah.
As well too. I would comment that my children speaking to Alexa and Assistant and Siri today is the default mode of homework completion. It is the default mode of ordering groceries and replacing lunches. Things are added that way. It is the default mode to control music in the house for sure. And
Default for the birds of the bee conversation?
It all started with fart jokes, too, and it's...
We deactivated that skill shortly after it appeared magically. And in particular now, though, you mentioned wake words as well, too, as Amazon and others, I'm sure, will move to eliminate the wake words and then activate the skill or action based on its interaction model you surface at the voice OS level. New things show up as capabilities sort of more organically now. My kids just heckle those devices all the time, and that's a dominant form of computing in our lives and our family, flat out.
So I'm going to be rude because I know there are more questions, but the next panel goes deeper on this, and it's about the art of the conversation. It's about sort of the tools and models for redefining, and what the end game is here. Are we building some sort of conversational entity that's ours that we want to interact with, and where are we right now, and how are there new rules and that sort of thing. And Derek's going to take over, and
Thank you, guys.
I want to thank everybody.